They were seconds away from firing up their engines when a barefoot boy ran out from the motel office, waving his arms in terror. His voice cracked the dawn. "Don't start your bikes!" Everyone froze. What they found under those chrome beasts wasn't fate. It was a message written in danger. Before we start the story, tell us, where in the world are you watching this from? And if you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing to our channel. It'll help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers and keep sharing more inspiring content with you. The morning sun had just begun to rise over Coyote Ridge, a stretch of desert road so quiet you could hear the wind scraping sand against asphalt. 7 Harley-Davidsons gleamed in a line outside the Trailstone Motel, their chrome catching pale gold light. Inside, the men of the Hellsangels Nomad chapter moved like clockwork, checking fuel, tightening bolts, wiping dust from tanks. Their leader, Reed Dalton, nicknamed Bones, was a man carved from miles and scars. A Gulf vet turned road brother, he didn't waste words. Today's ride wasn't pleasure, it was duty, a memorial run for a fallen member. They'd ride 6 hours to lay his ashes where the mountains met the sea. As Bones adjusted his gloves, he caught sight of the motel's cracked sign, flickering weakly in the distance. "Let's roll in 5, he called out, his voice low and graveled. Around him, engines began to rumble softly, the sound of thunder building beneath a still sky. None of them knew they were seconds from disaster. Inside the small motel office, 10-year-old Eli Turner stared out the window, his breath fogging the glass. His father was the motel caretaker, gone that morning to buy supplies from town, leaving Eli alone to feed the stray cat and keep the keys sorted. He liked watching the bikers. They were loud, dangerous, and somehow free. But this morning, something felt wrong. When he'd gone to throw trash out before sunrise, he'd seen 2 men crouched beside the motorcycles, one tall, one stocky, whispering and shining a tiny flashlight beneath the fuel tanks. At first, Eli thought they were mechanics. Then one of them said words that chilled him. "They'll light up the second those engines do." He didn't understand it, but the tone, the quiet, deliberate kind, made his stomach twist. The men vanished before he could even think to yell. Now, watching the bikers getting ready to leave, Eli's heart raced. He stepped out onto the porch, dust sticking to his bare feet. "Hey, mister," he called, voice trembling. No one heard him. Engines were about to start. Bones swung his leg over his Harley, tightening his gloves. "All right, brothers," he said, "let's ride." The ignition clicked. But before he could twist the throttle, a blur of motion burst from the motel steps. Eli sprinted across the lot, waving both arms like a signal flare. "Stop!" he screamed. "Don't start your bikes!" The men froze. The silence that followed was heavy, dangerous. Blaze, the club's mechanic, frowned. "Kid, what the hell?" Eli stumbled to a stop in front of them, panting. "Please, you can't start them. I saw 2 men last night. They were under the bikes, they said. They said something about lighting up." The words hit the air like a hammer. Blaze's face went white. Bones dismounted slowly, eyes narrowing. "You sure about that, son?" Eli nodded frantically. "They said once the engines start, it's over." Bones turned toward Blaze. "Check it. Every single one." Blaze dropped to his knees with a flashlight and knife, slicing open the first fuel line tape. His breath caught. "Oh, hell," he whispered. "He's telling the truth." The mechanic's hands trembled as he peeled away a layer of heat-resistant tape from the second Harley's fuel line. A clean cut ran across the rubber tubing, thin, deliberate, almost surgical. Someone had slit it, then patched it perfectly. One spark, one rev, and the fuel would have sprayed straight into the engine block. "They wired us for fire," Blaze said, his voice shaking. Bones crouched beside him, jaw tight. Who the hell would do this? The others gathered close, their expressions darkening. "Someone who knows bikes," Blaze replied. "Knows our route. Knows what a memorial run means to us." The realization settled like a storm. Eli stood off to the side, his chest heaving, eyes wide as the men worked. Bones rose, towering over him, and placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "You just saved 7 lives, son." Eli blinked, barely believing it. "I did?" "You did," Bones said. Then his voice hardened. "And now we find out who wanted us dead." Around them the desert wind shifted. The morning, once peaceful, now pulsed with vengeance. They moved fast. Blaze inspected each bike while Ranger, the chapter's tracker, took photos of every cut and piece of tape. "Same job, all of them," he muttered. "Professional hands." Bones nodded. "This wasn't random. Somebody wanted to send a message." From the motel doorway, Eli clutched the counter, watching them with a mix of fear and awe. Bones turned to him again. "You hear or see where those men went after?" "No," Eli said softly, "but I heard a truck, big one. It drove toward the old quarry road." Blaze straightened. "Quarry's abandoned. Perfect spot for someone to hide tools or wait out the sun." Bones looked to his men. "Then that's where we're going." He crouched again, eye level with Eli. "You did something brave today, kid. But you stay here. Lock the doors, you hear me?" Eli nodded, his small fingers clutching his shirt. As the angels mounted their bikes again, Blaze's voice broke the silence. "Engines cold. We'll push 'em out first." The roar would wait. The reckoning wouldn't. The 7 bikes rolled silently down the back road, engines off, coasting one by one through the pale morning heat. The men pushed them until they were far from the motel, then finally started them, short bursts, low revs. The rumble felt restrained, like rage waiting to breathe. Bones led the pack, his eyes locked on the horizon. The old quarry lay 6 miles west, a forgotten pit surrounded by rusted machinery and sagebrush. Blaze's GPS flickered. "Got tire tracks," he said over the comms. "Heavy tread dual axle. Matches a truck." Bones grunted. "Our visitors didn't go far." As they neared the quarry, the air grew thick with heat and silence. They parked behind a ridge, killing the engines. "Spread out," Bones ordered. Eyes sharp, dust rose with every step. Beneath the echo of their boots, the desert felt alive, watching, waiting. Ranger knelt, touching the ground. 2 sets of prints, one heavy, one dragging the right foot. He looked up. "Matches what the kid said." "One of 'em limps." Bones's jaw tightened. "Then we're close." They found the truck parked half-hidden behind a mound of gravel, an old black Ford with no plates and windows tinted dark. Blaze crept closer, weapon drawn. "Clear?" Bones whispered. "Empty," Blaze murmured, checking the cab. The inside reeked of gasoline and oil. In the truck bed lay a crate of tools, tube cutters, fuel line tape, and a laptop with race maps displayed on screen. "Whoever this is, they've been watching more than us," Blaze muttered. "Look, timestamps, routes, other clubs." Bones leaned in. The list on the laptop showed not just their chapter but others. Outlaws, reapers, even rival angels. "This ain't personal," he said quietly. "It's organized." A soft sound echoed, a crunch of gravel. Blaze spun, gun raised. From the shadows of an old loader, a man stumbled out, limping, gaunt, grease on his hands. He froze under their gaze. "Don't shoot," he croaked. "It wasn't my idea." Bones stepped forward. "Then whose idea was it?" The man hesitated, fear tightening his face. "You won't believe me," he said. "But it ain't over yet." The man's name was Darrell Knox, a small-time mechanic from Ridge County. Hands shaking, he told them everything. "They came 2 nights ago," he said. "Said they'd pay me $5,000 to adjust a few bikes. I thought they meant minor stuff. Loosen a bolt, drain some gas. Then they brought me that." He pointed to the precision cutter in the crate. "They said once those engines fired, it'd make headlines. Said bikers needed a wake-up call." Blaze frowned. "Who were they?" Darrell swallowed hard. "Didn't use names. One had a scar across his cheek. Drove a red van with the logo Highmark Security." Bones glanced at Ranger. You heard of it? Yeah, Ranger said grimly. Private firm. Used to guard transport convoys. Lost a contract after a biker group intercepted one of their shipments last year. Blaze exhaled. So this is payback. Darrell nodded miserably. They said they'd kill me if I talked. Bones holstered his gun. You just talked. So now you ride with us till we make it right. They loaded Darrell into the back of Blaze's truck and headed towards Sable Junction, the nearest town. Bones called ahead to an old contact, Deputy Calder, a retired lawman who owed him more than one favor. Calder met them behind the abandoned train depot, his badge tucked under his vest. This better not drag me into club business, he said, eyeing the group. Bones tossed him a USB drive. Laptop files, coordinates, and names tied to Highmark security. Someone's using old company contacts to hit MCs across the state. This morning, it nearly worked. Calder plugged the drive into his tablet, eyes scanning rapidly. Well, hell, he muttered. These aren't local punks. This is ex-military. They know explosives, timing, sabotage. He looked up. You boys stumbled into something federal. Bones lit a cigarette, unbothered. Then it's their move. Calder frowned. You don't get it. These guys don't forgive. If they came for you once, they'll finish the job. Bones flicked ash into the dust. Then we'll be waiting. By afternoon, the hellsangels nomads were back at the motel. Eli ran out as they pulled in, relief flooding his small face. You're okay, he shouted. Bones crouched, resting a gloved hand on his shoulder. Thanks to you, kid. Blaze knelt too, handing him a small chrome badge from his vest. The emblem glinted under the sun, an angel's wing over a wheel. You earned this, Blaze said. Not just for warning us for standing up when no one else did. Eli grinned, eyes wide. Does this mean I'm one of you? Bones chuckled. Means you've got brothers on the road now. Behind them, Darrell sat under the shade of a bike awning, guarded but calm. The motel owner, returning from town, watched in awe as the angels, men everyone warned him about, stood in a quiet circle around a boy and a mechanic who'd both done the right thing. Bones straightened, scanning the horizon. This ain't over, he said. But neither are we. Engines thundered to life once more. Not for vengeance, but for honor. That night, the Trailstone Motel glowed with the faint hum of neon. But inside, the angel's mood was far from rest. Bones sat at the edge of his bunk, a cigarette burning low between his fingers, his mind replaying Darrell's words. Across the room, Blaze was field-stripping his pistol in silence, the methodical rhythm steadying his thoughts. They knew our route, Blaze muttered. That means someone fed 'em info. Bones nodded slowly. Inside job. Ranger entered holding a phone. Just heard from Calder. Highmark's still operational under a shell company, Trident Response Group. Guess who's listed as regional head? Bones raised an eyebrow. Who? Raymond Colt, Ranger said grimly. Used to ride with the Reapers before they split from us. Got kicked out after the Vegas raid. The room went quiet. Old history. Old grudges. Then Colt's behind this, Bones said. Blaze's jaw clenched. He wants revenge. Bones crushed out his cigarette. Then he picked the wrong damn family to haunt. The men exchanged looks. Silent agreement forming like steel welded by fury. By dawn, the angels were already on the road, engines low and steady, chasing the ghost of a man they once called brother. The lead took them to a half-abandoned industrial park outside Mesa Flats, where Trident Response had a small, fenced compound. Through binoculars, Ranger counted 3 guards, 2 trucks, and a single office lit from within. Quiet, he said. Too quiet. Bones adjusted his cut, eyes cold. Blaze, you and Colt take the back. No noise unless I say. They slipped into formation, boots whispering against the dirt. Inside the compound, the air smelled of diesel and metal. Blaze pried open a maintenance door and froze. "Boss," he whispered, "you're gonna want to see this." Bones entered and stopped dead. Lined up against the far wall were motorcycles. Not just any bikes, theirs. Every model they'd lost in the past year, stolen or wrecked, now rebuilt, rigged with explosives under the tanks. Blaze's voice was low. "He's building decoys, using our own rides as bait." Bones stared at the gleaming steel coffins. Not anymore. Not after today. They planted hidden cameras and photographed everything. Explosive rigs, wiring, serial numbers. Evidence that would bury Trident Response for good. But before they could leave, headlights cut across the compound gate. "Movement," Ranger hissed. 3 vehicles rolled in, one of them a red van with the Highmark logo half scratched off. Blaze crouched behind a crate, pistol raised. From the van stepped a man built like stone, face-lined and familiar. Raymond Colt. His right hand was wrapped in a leather brace, the same hand that used to shake Bones back in the day after rides. "You always said you'd die for the Brotherhood," Colt said aloud, his voice echoing across the lot. "I guess you get to prove it." Bones rose from behind the crate, stepping into the open. "You betrayed the Brotherhood the day you sold your soul to a paycheck." Colt's lips twisted. "I just learned what loyalty costs and what it's worth." He raised a remote detonator. "You should have left the kid out of this." Bones' blood went cold. "What kid?" Colt smirked. "The one with too many questions." Back at the motel, Eli had been drawing pictures of bikes in a notebook when the hum of engines approached. Not the Angels' bikes, heavier, offbeat. The motel owner looked out the window. "Eli, get down!" he hissed, pulling him behind the counter. 2 men stepped out of a black SUV, one with a scar down his cheek, the other limping, the same men from the night before. They entered without knocking, guns drawn. "Where's the kid?" Scar barked. He saw our faces. "Boss says clean it up." Eli's heart hammered. The motel owner tried to reason with them. "He's just a child." The scarred man shoved him hard, sending him crashing into a rack of postcards. Outside, the faint thunder of distant motorcycles began to grow louder. Blaze's voice crackled through Bones' radio miles away. "Boss, we just got an alert. Motion sensor at Trailstone." Bones turned white. "It's them." Colt's detonator still glowed in his hand, but Bones didn't hesitate. "You stay here," he barked at his men. "I'm going for the kid." Then he kicked his Harley to life. Bones rode harder than he had in years, the engine screaming through desert wind, tires clawing at dirt. Every second felt like a countdown. When he reached the motel, the SUV was still out front, doors open, one man standing guard. Bones didn't slow. He gunned straight toward the vehicle, slammed the brake, and sent his bike skidding sideways. The impact knocked the guard flat. Bones drew his weapon, firing once. The second man fell before he could aim. Inside, the motel office door swung open. Eli huddled beneath the desk, the scarred man looming over him. Bones stepped in, voice steady as death. "Step away from him." The man spun, raising his gun, but Bones fired first. The echo rattled the windows. Eli flinched, then looked up at Bones with wide, tearful eyes. "I knew you'd come." Bones crouched, scooping him into his arms. "You're safe now, little brother." Outside, Blaze's headlights cut through the dusk as the Angels roared in, engines like a war cry. For the first time since sunrise, Bones let himself breathe. The motel shook with the echo of engines as the Angels surrounded the lot, their bikes forming a steel wall of thunder. Blaze dismounted first, scanning the fallen attackers. "You good?" he asked, voice tight. Bones nodded, Eli clinging to his jacket. "They wanted him," Bones said, his tone cold as asphalt. "Colt made it personal." Blaze's eyes hardened. "Then we end it tonight." Ranger checked the SUV. "They've got more gear in here. Tracking units, detonators, files with our names on them." Bones handed Eli to the motel owner. "Lock the doors. Don't open them till we're back." He crouched, looking Eli in the eyes. "You've got more heart than most men I know, kid. Now let us handle the devils." Eli nodded, tears streaking dust across his cheeks. As the angels mounted their bikes again, the horizon glowed faintly orange. "He's still at the quarry," Blaze said. Bones revved his engine, the sound tearing through the stillness like a battle cry. "Then that's where we ride. No mercy tonight." They reached the quarry just as night swallowed the desert. Floodlights flickered on. Colt's men were waiting. Trucks boxed the angels in, forming a ring of headlights that cut the darkness into harsh white shapes. Colt stood in the center, remote in hand, surrounded by crates of fuel-rigged bikes. "End of the road, Bones," he called out, smirking. "You always thought the patch made you bulletproof." Bones stepped forward, his shadow long under the glare. "You killed our brothers. You tried to burn us alive. You think that patch means nothing? You're wrong. It means family." Colt's grin faltered. "Family betrayed me first. You betrayed yourself," Bones shot back. The roar of engines built behind him, the angels circling like wolves. Blaze aimed his rifle at the fuel crates. "You're standing next to your own bomb, genius." Colt hesitated, glancing at the crate nearest his boots. Bones moved. One gunshot rang. The detonator shattered in Colt's hand. Chaos erupted, gunfire, dust, shouts. But the angels didn't back down. They'd been hunted. Now they hunted back. The quarry became a storm of light and fury. Blaze flanked left, dropping 2 of Colt's men before they could reach cover. Ranger rammed a truck, sending it spinning into the gravel pit below. Bones tackled Colt himself, the 2 men crashing into the dirt, fists flying. "You think killing us makes you whole?" Bones snarled. Colt spat blood, laughing bitterly. "You took everything from me, respect, rank, name." Bones slammed him again. "You threw that away the day you sold it." Colt reached for a knife, slashing upward. The blade grazed Bones' arm. Pain flashed white-hot, but he grabbed Colt's wrist and twisted hard. The knife dropped, clattering onto the stone. "You could have been saved," Bones said, breath ragged. Colt's reply was a whisper, almost regretful. "Too late for saving." Bones drove his fist once more, and Colt went still. Around them, the echoes faded. The gunfire stopped. Blaze limped over, smoke curling from a burning truck. "It's over," he said quietly. Bones looked at the carnage, then at the stars above. "No," he murmured. "Now it's over." By dawn, the quarry smoldered like a graveyard of machines. Sheriff Calder arrived with 2 cruisers and an ambulance, his expression grim but grateful. "Heard the fireworks from town," he said. "I guess you cleaned house." Bones handed him the evidence drive and a sealed envelope. "Everything on Trident's ops. Enough to shut 'em down." Calder nodded. "You boys saved more lives than you'll ever know." The angels loaded up, exhaustion etched in every motion. Blaze clapped Bones on the shoulder. "You think the kid's okay?" "He will be," Bones said, watching the sunrise stretch across the desert. Back at the motel, Eli waited on the steps, clutching the chrome badge Blaze had given him. When Bones dismounted, the boy ran straight into his arms. "Did you get the bad guys?" "Yeah," Bones said softly. "They won't hurt anyone again." Eli smiled weakly. "I was brave, like you said." Bones' throat tightened. "Braver." The men stood in quiet awe. In that small, dusty motel lot, they found something the road rarely gave: peace. A week later, the angels returned to Coyote Ridge, not for vengeance, but remembrance. They placed a plaque by the roadside, in honor of those who rode before us and those who kept us alive. Eli's name was engraved beneath it, followed by a single word: brother. The kid stood beside Bones, now wearing a child-sized leather vest with the angel's patch stitched across the back. "You mean I'm really part of the club?" he asked, eyes wide. Blaze laughed. "You earned it, kid. You saved more bikers than you'll ever count." The engines fired up one by one, a sound not of rebellion, but of respect. As the convoy rolled out, dust rising in soft halos behind them, Eli waved until the horizon swallowed them whole. Bones looked back once, the desert wind tugging at his cut. "Angels don't always have wings," he murmured. "Sometimes they just ride." If this story hit your heart, remember, heroes don't always wear halos. Sometimes they wear leather and live by loyalty. Subscribe, like, and ring the bell to ride with us again. Because in this world, the bravest voices can come from the smallest souls.